Welcome to my presentation on cheating. As I'm sure you are aware, cheating is a hot topic right now. Every time we turn around, we seem to hear about a new cheating scandal at this university or that university. Educators, parents, and the general community alike are all concerned about what this epidemic of cheating means for our schools and our students and basically education in general. Much of the research goes into trying to figure out what is the profile of a cheater? Who's cheating? How much are they cheating? And how are they getting away with it? Researchers want to know, what are these dispositional factors? Do girls cheat more than boys? Do rich people cheat more than poor people? What are the things that are going to predispose someone to cheating? And a lot of effort has been spent in looking at those factors without really conclusive results. For my research, I chose to focus primarily on one book, Cheating Lessons: Learning from Academic Dishonesty by James Lang. And James Lang takes the opportunity to explore much of the research that has been done on cheating. For a little background, Lang examines the work of Dan Ariely. He is a psychologist in behavioral economy that has studied dishonesty extensively. And I would really recommend either taking a look at his work through his book or especially his documentary, Dishonesty: The Truth About Lies.
I lied on the application. I just thought I was doing what was in the best interest of my daughters.
I knew that what I had done is wrong.
You know, I wasn't the partier. I wasn't the bad girl. I was a liar.
I just didn't think I was going to get caught.
I mean, it destroyed my life, to be honest with you.
How many people here have lied at least once since the beginning of 2014? How many people here think of yourself as honest, wonderful people? The same group. How can it be that at the same time we think of ourselves as honest and then we recognize that we're dishonest? When we started looking at dishonesty, my colleagues and I thought this was just another example of human irrationality. But all of a sudden, the world was telling us this is actually a more important topic to study.
I have never doped.
We don't torture people.
Does the NSA collect any data on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
Not wittingly.
In order to study dishonesty, we need to measure the extent to which people are dishonest. We've ran these experiments on almost 40,000 people.
Dishonesty is contagious.
Once you lie, you're more likely to lie again.
And the bigger the brain, the larger the capacity to lie.
Insider trading information is passed around. If it's not daily, it's weekly. Everyone's trading on this stuff. There wasn't one person at my office that wasn't.
Being an NBA referee, I knew certain teams were going to be at an advantage or a disadvantage. And it was just a situation where I crossed a line that I shouldn't have been near.
I think that even when you know it's wrong, the immediate gratification suffocates what you know is right.
It's not about being bad, it's about being...
I feel like understanding this human nature problem with dishonesty helps us have a little more compassion and a little bit more frame of reference when we approach the situation of a dishonesty in our classrooms. And I think it's just a fascinating way to look at things and to help us understand that people who cheat or lie aren't necessarily morally bankrupt human beings. They might just have some factors contributing to their lives that we need to understand a little better. One of the really interesting discussions in cheating research is whether this is a situation that is growing, whether the cheating instances are on the rise. And the problem with that question is that researchers aren't necessarily defining cheating in the same way, much the way that teachers don't always define cheating the same way in their classrooms. You know, in one classroom, any collaboration could be considered cheating or plagiarism, where another classroom, the collaboration is an essential part of the course. And so those differences in definitions definitely impact the data that is collected. But looking at the research, there isn't necessarily a huge increase of cheating. In fact, Donald McCabe says that cheating and higher education have enjoyed a long and robust history together. But no matter how one looks at the data, the prevalence of this self-reported cheating is high enough for all of us, students, faculty, and administrators, to be seriously concerned. And so it's not a new problem. It's not necessarily a growing problem, but it is a huge problem. Lang encourages us to go ahead and look at some cases of cheating throughout history to help us understand some of these contextual factors which could impact cheating in our classrooms. The first one he talks about is cheating in the ancient Olympic Games. And as you know, performance was the main focus of the games. And you may not realize that the winner took it all. There was no silver medal, there was no bronze medal, there was no endorsement deal for someone who did not win everything. And consequently, that did induce some competitors to cheat, either by paying off a judge or by paying off their competitors. But interestingly enough, the instances of actual cheating in the Olympic Games were smaller than in some other cases. For example, in ancient China, Chinese citizens could change their station in life by taking exams to become civil servants. And these exams were brutal. They required an extensive knowledge of Chinese history and philosophy. And not only did they have to know all the facts, but they had to be able to reproduce essays and poetry in the styles of the famous philosophers. And the stakes were very high. Obviously, this would change your whole station in life. And the tests were impossible. And there was huge scaffolding, huge business of cheating to support students taking this exam. And regardless of the fact that the consequence for cheating was death, that wasn't a big enough deterrent to these candidates to stop them from cheating on these tests. Another more recent example of a contextual situation that might induce cheating happened in Atlanta in a school district. And this was at the time of No Child Left Behind. And if you are unfamiliar with that legislation, basically No Child Left Behind said that every school district needed to show adequate yearly progress. And if they didn't, then teachers' jobs were at stakes. And in fact, the whole school or school district could be shut down by the state if they continue to fail to make this progress. And this school district had massive amounts of cheating in their district. Everything from giving students the answers during the tests to setting a student who struggled next to a student who was strong and encouraging them to share. Even they went so far as to erase the students' Scantrons and fill in the correct answers while the district provided pizza for the activity. While this scandal is shocking and really upsetting, it is a situation that shows when the stakes are high enough and the expectation for success is low enough that otherwise really good people might be induced to do something horribly dishonest. From these examples, Lang identifies 4 situations that could contribute to a cheating environment. And the first is an emphasis on performance. The most important thing is what you do in this moment, as in the Olympic Games. The second is high stakes. There is so much riding on this. This is your job. This is your whole future riding on one event. Another is the extrinsic motivation. The prize, the reward for doing well in this situation is exterior. It's the grade, it's the prize, it's the money, it's the job, rather than the actual learning. And finally, the low expectation of success might induce someone to cheat. If there's no chance that they are going to do well, and yet there are these other high stakes, that would contribute to a situation where a student might feel that they have no other choice than to beat. So what does that mean for my classroom? What can I take from ancient Olympics, ancient China, and even 15 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia, to improve my classroom? Well, Lang encourages us to take these high stakes contextual factors that enhance cheating and look for ways that we can reverse those in order to not only help our students work towards having higher academic integrity, but more importantly, that they will in fact learn the subjects that we are working so hard to teach them. Lang outlines 4 pillars that should be in a classroom that would make it a nearly cheating-free environment. Now, obviously, we have to add that nearly caveat because we are not going to be able to deter every instance of cheating. We're just trying to do our best to reduce it. And these pillars are, first, intrinsic motivation. Second, an emphasis on mastery rather than performance. We want to make sure that they really are learning it. The third is low stakes assessments, opportunities for them to demonstrate what they are learning in an environment where it's okay to take a risk. And finally, increased self-efficacy, that our students believe that they can accomplish what we are asking them to accomplish, and that they also can, in fact, accomplish what we are asking them to accomplish. Lang asserts that the most important of these pillars is the intrinsic versus the extrinsic motivation, where our students are working more about wanting to learn and having a passion and they feel purpose rather than simply working for a grade or working for away from the threat of a bad grade. And this proves to be a little bit difficult in some classes. While a technical class, a nursing class, or a skills class might have the intrinsic motivation built in because students can clearly see how these skills will benefit them in the future, other classes might be a little bit more difficult, such as a literature class or a history class, to find that intrinsic motivation. And some of the ways that Lang encourages us to find that motivation is to find ways to connect questions in the course to questions students already have, and to challenge them with questions or problems that you can help them see as fascinating and important. And then finally, to engage them with authentic assessments. One classroom example that Lang uses is a Russian literature professor named Andy Kaufman. And he had the opportunity to teach The Death of Ivan Ilyich to a group of inmates at the state prison. And he found that experience to be quite transforming, actually. As he taught them and saw that piece of literature through their eyes, he felt like he was experiencing the work for the first time, which is really saying something considering he is an expert in Russian literature. And wanting to find a way to take what he had learned and apply it to his classroom, he went and designed a classroom for his advanced Russian literature students that they do the same thing. They design a class on a Russian piece of literature to be taught at a juvenile detention center. And the students not only have the opportunity to experience a perspective far different from their own, but they also have the motivation to develop activities and curriculum that will be effective in that setting. The second pillar is teaching for mastery. What is the goal in our classrooms? With state testing and some of these other things, our goal might be to get the kids to take the tests, but really we hope that our goal is to teach them the material. And so what are the things that we can do in our class that will actually encourage the learning so there doesn't need to be cheating? Now, Lang uses an example of a professor named John Boyer who teaches a world regions class. And this class is huge, like 2,600 students, and it's actually a hugely popular class. But he has what he calls a gaming model for his class. And the students get to decide which activities they want to do and how much and what grade they want to get. And they can decide based on the points. Now, if you don't want to take tests, if you're terrible at taking tests, you don't have to take tests. You just have to look at other activities that will help you get the points. And he has a massive list of activities that the students can do. And interestingly, he also has, obviously he puts more emphasis and gives more points to the things that he really wants them to do. And one of the ways that you can get the most points in his class is by taking the weekly quiz on the reading. And the way he has it designed is that you can take the quiz as many times as you would like within that designated week. So as he said, in other words, keep taking the damn thing until you get a 100% on it. A mastery-based class doesn't care if you failed the quiz the first time. The mastery-based class cares if you finally figured out how to get it right. The other thing about this multi-choice assessment structure, it directs the students away from a constant focus on their exam or assignment performance in comparison to others. And so these students can look at their own work and assess their own interests based on what they would like to do. In addition to providing intrinsic motivation and working for teaching for mastery, it is critical that we offer low-stakes assessments in order to enhance a cheating-free environment. Now, that seems a little bit counterintuitive, that the more we test, the less students will cheat, because we might think that the more tests they have, the more opportunities they would have to cheat. And interestingly, the research found, though, that the more often you are tested on material, the better your brain remembers it. And the study that Lang cited was on vocabulary tests. And each week there was a list of vocabulary words. And the different groups were tested and encouraged to study in different ways. The first group would study this week's words and would only be tested on this week's words. The second group would study this week's words, but would be tested on this week's words and all of the previous week's words. And the third group was to study all of the words, including this week's words, and then they would be tested on all of the words. And interestingly enough, researchers found that even the students who were not continuing to study the old word lists, the fact that they were tested on them regularly significantly increased their retention. So simply taking the quiz, simply having those words appear on the quiz, increased their ability to remember those words, really impacted their learning of those words. In addition, having other opportunities that are not huge point things, they are not the final exam, they are not a third of your grade, reduces students' anxiety about different assessments, and we might get a more accurate picture of what they can do outside of some anxiety they might feel. The final pillar in this cheating-free environment is to make sure that our students have a sense of self-efficacy. We want them to be confident that they can, in fact, perform well. And there are two sides of this coin, actually, because we want them to feel confident, but we want that confidence to be backed up by actual skill. How often have you gone into the testing center super confident that you know the material, only to find yourself panicking halfway through the test, or worse, blindsided when you get your results and find out that you bombed the test? Obviously, you did not have an accurate concept of what your skills were. So it's really important that we don't go into a case feeling we don't want to feel like Nemo or Marlin, that you just can't do these things. We want to encourage our students that they can. And so the way that we can increase that sense of self-efficacy is to give students multiple opportunities to demonstrate that they can do this, just like in those low-stakes assessment. The other thing that we can do is we can make sure that the format of our questions on our low-stakes assessments are similar to the format of the questions on the high-stakes assessments. We don't need to be working on gotcha questions. That really isn't reaching our purpose. That's not helping our students learn. And so helping them practice, helping them feel confident, and then really making success on those high-stakes portions of our class possible is crucial to helping our students be successful and feel successful. After we have worked so hard to create this classroom that is current and relevant and encourages learning rather than cheating, we still need to talk about cheating. It is important that we define what original work means in our classrooms. We need to make sure that our expectations for our students are clear. Is collaboration allowed? How are students to give credit to the peers with whom they have collaborated? What sources are they allowed to use? How are they to cite those sources? Making sure that students understand the standard to which they will be held is fair and will also help prevent inadvertent academic dishonesty. Second, we need to be involved in creating a culture of academic honesty on campus and in the classroom. The policies need to be fair and effective. We can't simply decide to do whatever we want to do in our classroom and hope that everything else will be fine. In order for policies to be effective, they need to be campus-wide, and we need to participate in their development and their enforcement. And finally, as we consider punishments for those students who are found cheating, we want to remember what our ultimate goal is. Can our punishment help facilitate the learning of that student while still helping them understand the gravity of their offense? Now, there will be times when our students are found cheating, and as devastating as that will be, it's important that we keep calm and don't take it personally. Dr. Lang encourages, a student cheats on a test. He does not cheat on you. I think that is important. We do take what happens in our classrooms personally, but this is an important time to be more objective. Thank you so much for indulging me in this presentation on cheating. There are so many things that I wish that I could share with you from this book and from this research, and I would encourage you to take a look at the book yourself. Lang has wonderful suggestions and ways to implement things step by step that can improve all of our teaching and our students' learning. I wish you all the best in your endeavors in creating a classroom that is not only honest, but especially a class in which students continue to learn and thrive.